Imagine waking up to find that every product you buy, from your smartphone to your car, just got a whole lot more expensive. Well, that's exactly what's about to happen. In a move set to shake the global economy, Donald Trump has just announced sweeping new taxes on imports from around the world. Standing in the White House Rose Garden, he declared it Liberation Day for the American economy, claiming the U.S. has been ripped off by foreigners for decades. His speech was a rallying cry for economic nationalism, and his administration believes these tariffs will finally give America the upper hand in global trade. But will this bold move be a game changer, or are we on the brink of a full-scale global economic crisis? The headline figures are staggering. A universal baseline tariff of 10% will apply to all imports coming into the U.S. The UK is facing this 10% rate, while the European Union has been hit even harder with a 20% tariff. And then there's China, the biggest target of Trump's economic offensive. Chinese imports will now be slapped with an additional 34% tariff on top of the 20% already in place. That's a jaw-dropping 54% tariff on Chinese goods, a move that could trigger dramatic consequences for businesses and consumers alike. Trump's message was clear. The days of America being taken advantage of are over. This is one of the most important days in American history, he proclaimed. It's our declaration of economic independence. The president painted a picture of a nation that had been looted, raped, and pillaged by foreign economies. Now he says the time for payback has arrived. His speech was filled with fiery rhetoric aimed at rallying his base, portraying these tariffs as a battle to restore American dominance in trade. But is this a strategic move to boost American industry? Or is it the beginning of a global economic crisis? The specifics of these tariffs read like the odds at a racetrack. 10% for the UK, 20% for the EU, 24% for Japan, and a staggering 54% for China. Trump insists these are reciprocal measures, saying, that means they do it to us and we do it to them. Very simple. Can't get any simpler than that. But economic analysts are warning that simplicity does not equal stability. Already reports are emerging of panic buying as Americans rush to purchase vehicles before a separate 25% tariff on foreign-made cars takes effect. The auto industry, a major pillar of the economy, could see major disruptions as a result of these policies. Manufacturers that rely on imported parts are already scrambling to figure out how to deal with the increased costs. The White House claims these measures will boost American manufacturing and, in Trump's words, make America wealthy again. But looming over this bold economic gamble are some major unanswered questions. Will U.S. businesses eat the costs, or will they pass them on to consumers? And perhaps most crucially, are we witnessing the beginning of a full-scale global trade war? International reactions have been swift and severe. In the UK, Prime Minister Keir Starmer struck a serious tone, warning that we are living in a changing world, entering a new era. He called for a rapid overhaul of British economic policy to counter the effects of these tariffs and vowed to do everything necessary to defend the UK's national interest. The UK economy, already navigating post-Brexit uncertainties, now faces a new economic challenge that could impact major industries, from manufacturing to agriculture. British businesses that rely on exports to the U.S. could face declining profits, leading to potential job losses and economic strain. China, unsurprisingly, has reacted with fury. Beijing has promised resolute countermeasures, though it has not yet detailed what those might be. The Chinese government has condemned the tariffs as a typical act of unilateral bullying. The country's Commerce Ministry scoffed at the notion that these tariffs were reciprocal, calling them unilateral and subjective assessments imposed by Washington. Now, speculation is swirling about how China might hit back, whether through tariffs of its own, restrictions on U.S. businesses, or even closer economic ties with Europe. Some analysts predict China may target key American exports such as soybeans and technology products, hitting major U.S. industries where it hurts the most. Others warn that China could use its leverage in rare earth minerals, crucial for the production of everything from smartphones to military hardware, potentially crippling key American sectors. The European Union is also reeling. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen described Trump's tariffs as a major blow to the world economy. She warned that uncertainty will spiral and trigger the rise of further protectionism, which could devastate not just the wealthiest nations, but also smaller economies that rely heavily on trade. The EU, she said, had always been open to negotiation, but the U.S. administration chose confrontation instead. The possibility of retaliatory tariffs from the EU looms large, and European businesses that depend on the American market are bracing for potential economic turbulence. In Germany, where the economy depends heavily on exports, the mood is particularly grim. One statistic making the rounds: 1 in every 4 Porsches made in Germany is sold to the United States. A prolonged trade war could severely impact not just the car industry, but the entire European economy. The German auto industry is already facing challenges from rising energy costs and supply chain disruptions, and these tariffs could push some companies to the brink. While EU leaders are discussing retaliatory measures, they are also seeking a path to negotiate their way out of this economic standoff. Back in the UK, Downing Street is bracing for impact. The Prime Minister has held emergency meetings with top business leaders, trying to reassure them that his government is working to mitigate the impact of these tariffs. British officials are still negotiating with Washington, hoping to secure an economic deal that could remove or reduce these tariffs. But the biggest uncertainty? Whether Trump himself will sign off on such an agreement. His own team may be negotiating in good faith, but will the president play ball? If a deal isn't reached, pressure will mount for Britain to retaliate. That could mean imposing its own tariffs on American goods, escalating tensions even further. But would that strategy help or hurt British consumers and businesses? The reality is that no one knows exactly how this will play out. What is clear, however, is that Trump's tariffs have sent shockwaves through the global economy, setting the stage for potential trade wars that could reshape international commerce for years to come. Will his economic gamble pay off, or will it backfire spectacularly? That's the question we'll be watching closely in the days and weeks ahead. Let us know what you think in the comments. Is this a bold move that will strengthen America's economy, or a reckless decision that could spark economic chaos? Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next update on this developing story.